All right, another beautiful day. This is Cole Whitty with Warrior Women with a Purpose, and today's guest is Dr. Anna Cabeca. And not just the fact that she's a doctor and has a tremendous amount of experience, but she has her own story to go along with it. She was suffering with depression, fatigue, hormone imbalance, weight gain, chronic pain, and we all know that's not a good way to live. And as I experienced at points in my life, doctors said, this is just kind of your life now. And now, besides being double board certified OBGYN, she's got so many things that she can offer us that she had to learn from her own path. And I'm going to let her share that a little bit more because it's so valuable and it's so incredible just to have you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Cole. I'm just excited to be here, and I love the name of your podcast.
Thank you. It really has lived up to that name ever since it came out. You certainly are a warrior woman with a purpose. Why don't we start by kind of sharing your story of how you developed this purpose that is now kind of your life's work?
Yeah. So, I look at it and I always think, okay, how did I get here? Everything really aligned itself to bring me here to really help women through the transition time period, pre, peri, and post menopause, and really to accomplish our embodiment of our true soul purpose, right? Soul purposes, because we have more than one.
Yes.
We have more than one. So I think that it's been a challenge, and I'd say that my journey, it's been a long road, and it's just every step of the way has been contributing to where I am now, of course. But certainly, one of the things is I grew up in a multicultural household with food as medicine and really looking at some ancient healing techniques, but also seeing how modern medicine took my mom, who just was a most amazing woman, down a path of 11 medications, a major heart bypass surgery. She actually had cardiac bypass surgery at 52 years old. That's how old I am right now. And when she had that, I was 16 at the time. And I just, had prayed, God, give us another 16 years with mom. And then when she was 67 years old, she underwent a second heart surgery for a valve replacement, really struggled and had really been struggling the last couple of years. And I was a resident at Emory University, with the best of the best. And, we had the best of the best taking care of her with her doctors and ones that had taken care of her for a long time, but she never made it out of that surgery. Mm-hmm. So my mom, who had a tremendous potential, tremendous mind, tremendous spirit of gratitude, love, and kindness, her life was cut short. And it's so sad for me that she didn't get to know her grandchildren, and her grandchildren didn't get to know her. So for me, Cole, to just visualize, I want to share with you and your listeners this vision that I have for why I'm so passionate about educating and empowering women to take their health in their own hands. Because, there's just so much power that we do have that we're designed to, our bodies are designed to heal itself given the right information. So, I am triple board certified and a great surgeon, and all these wonderful things can, write prescriptions till the sun sets, right? But that's not how I heal. That's not how people heal, right? There's, maybe like 10%, because I'm an egotistical doctor, I'll claim 10% of the healing, through technique or whatever. But let me tell you, really, it's honestly 99% in each woman's own hand. And so what I visualize women and men living their lives together, fulfilled marriages for years, seeing the fruits of their labor, essentially, their children, their grandchildren around them for generations, overlooking a community that adores them, that they've contributed to, and they're absolutely able to enjoy and interact with and connect with on a continual daily basis in full strength, embodiment, and mental faculties. And I saw these chairs. I was driving up. I know I'm rambling, but I got to tell you the story. Is that okay?
Please.
Chairs on the way to Tennessee to pick my daughter up from horseback riding pre-vet camp she was going to. And there were just these two Adirondack chairs sitting on the side of a mountain overlooking the valley. And I'm like, man, I want to fill those chairs for generation. And just my mind just went like, what are the, who sits in those chairs and where the kids are running around those chairs, the parties and friends that are, come together around those chairs, and just thinking about filling the chairs for generation to come. So it's kind of now my business motto is like, we're going to fill these chairs with healthy people for generations to come. And, and the suffering and pain and stereotypes of menopause stop now, because women are suffering. My mom didn't get to live. My dad lived an additional 19 years without my mom. And he shouldn't have, loved her till the day he died at 91. So he should never have, that she should never have died. And fortunately, I was able at 79, when my dad was 79, intervene to, when he was given his essentially last rites, to give him a really another healthy 12 years. So there's so much we can do. And in my program that we'll talk about, Magic Menopause, I have women in it from age 35 to 75, and it's just empowering, and their lives get better. And I love seeing women that just haven't given up on this. I just tell you, my 70-year-olds, they're like amazing. And mostly they're from other countries. So I feel like as Americans, we've kind of given up on ourselves in a way. And I don't want anyone to give up on themselves in any condition, like you didn't give up on yourself. What a powerful story, right? You kept looking for answers, because in our spirit, we know there's a better way. So, for our listeners, there's a better way. We're here to guide you. We're here to help you, and hold on to that. Don't be told, nope, this is the way it is. I was told that. I was told I was menopausal at 39 years old, would never have another baby. And, thank you God. Thank you for the information that I learned. But like I said, I'm 52 with a 10-year-old now. So that diagnosis was not permanent. So that's why I'm so empowering and passionate about women taking their health into their own hands.
Yeah, I mean, you have me completely fired up, because, listening, just as my friends get older, and I'm 35 now, I don't subscribe to the idea of aging, because at 25, I felt like I was dying. The swelling in my knees, my endometriosis, I felt like I was 80 years old at 25. And honestly, I didn't even want, the idea of living to 80 was ghastly. It was like, do I really want to spend another 60 years like this? Like I didn't even, that started to even just change the trajectory of what I was setting as an intention of how long I was going to live. No one wants to suffer, let alone, 50, 60, 70 years of suffering.
Right.
And when I first started the path, it was just getting less pain. Now that I know, now that there's a corner that you turn, that you're like, wait, hold on, I have been lied to. Like there is a level that we're not settling in our business, and women are being empowered by what is possible with their business and their finances and their independence, and not the same with our health. Every time one of my friends says, oh, well, I'm just getting older, I'm like, stop right now. Just by saying that anything is as a result of getting older, your body will follow that. Your body will go, oh, I'm getting older, or I don't need this part of myself. So everything you just said right now, just that clip, I'm going to send to every friend every single time they say that I'm just getting older, or they feel like the clock is ticking against them to be able to have children. I'm still not considering kids yet. Happily married, 5 years with my husband, happy. I still feel like I have plenty of time. Like I feel more energized and excited and young than I ever did in my teens or my 20s. Because my endometriosis and ovarian pain and stuff started so young. So how often in your program and past programs, and you have tons of products, which I use, by the way, but how often do women start making some of these shifts and they're just shocked by just hormone imbalances, the impact it's having on their life?
Oh my gosh. And so often, and first of all, I love that you turned your crisis into your gifts, right? And you would say we make our mess becomes our message in one way or another, right? And so empowering and so important, and nothing is to be taken for granted, right? You learn from it, wherever situation, wherever we're struggling with right now, that we can learn from it and get better. Like I know even today, like a lot better than I was, oh my gosh, 13 years ago now, but I can get better, right? And I think that's just really powerful to say. I'm at the age my mom had her cardiac bypass surgery. it's a very significant time of year for me. I'm like, man, I need to get a cardiac ultrasound just to be safe. But, like, hey, don't rule that out. But, we're going to do that. So it's so empowering. What I've seen, like, I love the stories. I have this one client, Tracy, and she was 48, joining my program for the first time, Magic Menopause. Now she comes back as an alumni. But one of the things that she said, she goes, I've lived on my farmhouse. I've loved tinkering in my farmhouse. And I've had these, horses and farm animals, and I never would even go outside. I would never go outside to see them. And once she started feeling better, she started going out and checking on them, feeding them, started riding again. I'm a horse lover. So these are the stories that I tend to, gravitate to too. So she started riding again. She goes, when I feel, and she said this to me just in conversation, she said, when I don't feel like going outside, I know I've fallen off somewhere. So and this is something I emphasize, physiology dictates behavior. Right? So physiology drives behavior. So what's going on the inside is going to affect the way we think, the way we feel, the way we move, the way we want, the way we need. And it becomes really personal. So we can make that connection, then we can really empower our body to make some changes. We can say, okay, that's a quick checks and balances. I need to drink my green drink, and I need to make sure I'm, getting outside in nature, and make sure I'm calling up my funny friend that makes me laugh. I need to do these things that are going to positively affect my physiology. That's absolutely, so beneficial in so many ways. And so that's one story. And so for listeners, you may not have horses in your backyard that you get to ride. I wish that was me too. I love horses, but maybe it's something else. Maybe it's, playing tennis. Maybe it's doing art. Maybe it is going out and having tea with friends and just showing up in the world again. Maybe, finding your voice, finding, you're doing your passion. So whatever it is that maybe you haven't been doing that you're like, oh my gosh, I want to start doing that again. Recognize that physiology drives behavior. You may not feel like doing it, not because you don't love it as much, but it's because your energy's down. Your mitochondria are suffering from a cellular level. And that's one thing I've done with all my medical and science background is look, what is this? What is the underlying cause of what's going on? Like if I'm having a headache, or if someone has joint pain, for instance, pain when they open their hand first thing in the morning, or pain when they put their feet on the floor first thing in the morning, because we shouldn't, right? There's no reason to. What's going on in my physiology that's causing, what's at the cellular level? So we keep going down. The standard medical care would be, okay, let me treat you with some anti-inflammatory drugs. But let's look at why. So we go down to the cell membranes, and that's where I worked, from a physician standpoint and hormone specialist, to getting all the way down to major hormones and improving cell-to-cell communication. When we heal that, everything gets better. Our skin gets better, hair gets better, nails get better, joints are better, mind is better, relationships are better.
Yes,
so keep looking. Yep, at the
sorry.
cell.
So especially because I'm sitting here nodding my head as if my head's going to just roll down the hallway in a second here, because everything that you just described, the good news is we don't have to spend so much time figuring out what's wrong up here, because when it is something on that cellular level, when that inflammation gets high, when it is because of what's going on the inside, a lot of what's up here gets resolved actually, because what a lot of women don't realize is what's going on with your hormones or your body in general directly impacts what you're thinking about and the way that it comes up. If I'm not taking care of myself, the dark voices, even suicidal type thoughts creep in, and that can happen just from diet. That can happen just from not getting enough sleep. And there are times I have to go, whoa, hold on. Remove myself from the story up here and say, what's going on in here? What am I not honoring right now for this to be coming up? Because I know I love my life. I established this already. I've done that work. So I think that a lot of women really, well, we're not taught, first of all, but second of all, they don't really understand what happens in that physiological response that translates and creates some really negative thoughts in the mind.
Yeah, absolutely. And how quickly and how, intricately connected different parts of our body are. Our gut-brain connection, huge huge. Our heart connection, right, to our brain and our body. And it just goes on from there. So we know that more serotonin is produced in the gut than in the nervous system. So a healthy, healthy microbiota of the healthy bacteria in the intestines is so important. So what we recognized with the cracking of the genetic code is that we've got about as many genes as a worm. So what else, what makes us different? And it's this microbiome that we carry. So the healthy bacteria that is so important in producing our hormones and communicating with our cell membranes, communicating part of our communication system. It makes sense. These are organisms that are communicating within us, that we've got to acknowledge them in a really big way. And so in my program, because I recognize too that there's more than one thing. As a gynecologist, I would really like to say that, let's address estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, and we've got you covered. But in fact, it goes to bigger major hormones than that. And that's where I talk and teach, how do we empower major hormones that are really overarching, governing our bodies and our lives. And that's why I created, Magic Menopause, which is an 8-week program to do that. And so when it comes into diet is a part of it. And this is why, women, we beat ourselves up when we fail another diet. Has anyone out there failed more than one diet? Just me?
And maybe me.
The two of us. All right. So that's 100% of us, really, right? So we wonder, and it's because diet's only 25. What we eat, let me say it this way specifically, what we eat is 25% of the picture, right? Not to mention diet's a 4-letter word with the word die in it, it's not my favorite. But it's not just what we eat, right? What we focus on, but it's when we eat. And it's maybe even who we're eating with, and where did the food come from that we're eating? What was, if we're eating, a stressed out piece of steak versus a free range, happy-go-lucky, steak that was then, brought in for processing. I have, my ex-husband has a buffalo ranch. So the very humane ways of treating the buffalo, and there are rules around it as well, which is great because they've been unadulterated livestock, the only ones in our country. So it's been pretty cool to see how they do they work with the animals, and then it's like a big hug essentially, versus going into a meat processing plant. Right. So it's very interesting to look at that, but that's got to affect the physiology and the quality of what's coming into then us, right? Because we're going to be exposed to the hormones of the food we eat. And sadly, it's so adulterated with antibiotics, with GMOs, with hormones. In many of the foods we're eating, we have to be really careful. But again, we have to choose wisely when it comes to our nutritional resources.
Yes. It's actually really interesting because it was about 15 years ago, I was working at a Japanese restaurant that was just opening in New York City. It was called Megu. I think they actually just did a reopen or something, I saw. But the chef there was from Japan, and he could actually tell that if a fish was killed when it was afraid, he could taste the difference from the stress hormone release in the fish. Right. And this is when I first started to consider that. I was just learning this as part of my work because he says that destroys the umami, or the balance of the fish that makes the life of the food to be there. And after he said that, I started to consider that the rest of my life, because I'm like, if this guy, and they would test him on it, if this guy can taste the stress hormone, then we are absorbing the stress hormone. So if we assume, which we could assume in the United States, at these big slaughterhouses with all the chickens and all the cows, they're stressed all the time. And so from, head to tail is just stress hormones in the meat. So that really, as you're describing that, this is something I got exposed to, 15 years ago. And only now not only now, but in the recent years, has it become in more of the forefront of nutrition in general?
Well, I think one of the big things that women deal with and we fear as we get older is osteoporosis and bone loss, right? I want to connect that to what we're discussing, because in my family, we eat, I try to cook as much as I can, not always, but we eat free range, organic, whenever possible. And so we were out somewhere and traveling, and we went and got chicken wings. And so this has been a while since I got, chicken wings, and the bones were brittle on these chicken wings. And I'm like, man, I don't remember chicken wing bones being so brittle. But then, checked in a couple other places, and it was kind of the same thing. And it just made me think, well, these are stressed out animals. I mean, these are stressed out chickens. Stress, we're going to deplete. The stress creates an acidity in your body. So you're going to take alkaline minerals from your bones, essentially, in order to keep the blood pH alkaline. And that's going to make a difference. We see osteoporosis in young women because of stress, because of an acidic diet and lifestyle, because we got to keep our blood pH absolutely stable. Our body is designed to stay in a very narrow pH range in the blood. But to get there, we've got to get the minerals from somewhere. And if we're so stressed out, we're so acidic, we're eating an inflammatory diet, or, without minerals and greens, we're just going to be continuing to take the minerals from where? Bone, teeth, etc. And collagen in our body gets depleted, all of those things. And we become fragile. And so women would, that analogy, it's the first time I'm sharing it, but I mean, it's pretty powerful. It's really amazing to see. As a kid growing up eating chicken bones, they weren't brittle. I don't remember that. And over the past 20 years have been organic and free range as possible. There's been a big shift, and it's also generational, right? So we're going to see weak chickens make more weak chickens, right? It's just going to continue going down. And we're seeing the effect of our health in generations to come. In my book coming out, I'm going to share this with you. I'm so excited. It's coming out in March, The Hormone Fix. I talk about some of these key factors that, sneak up on us and that we're often unaware of, that really can affect our quality of life. And again, it's within our control. It's based on the choices we make. And for the most part, things we can control. And if not, things we can do to overpower those things we can't control.
I think that what you just said is really important, because there are always going to be things we can't control, at least in that moment, but other choices can impact our ability later to control those. It's kind of like having the checklist of everything, that's going on. And maybe you can't access the fifth one on the list yet, but once you get to the third, that's going to give you access to the fourth and the fifth, and kind of continue to go through that list and remove things. And I really would like to talk about a lot with what's going on, or what I see with the women that I work with a lot of hormone imbalances. And like you said, from stress and high inflammatory diets, and also the expectation they have on themselves to be a career woman and a mother, that we're kind of in this, like, now you need to be the best of both. At least in the 50s, you could just focus on being the best mother. And then I feel like in the early 2000s, more women were business, and they were getting a little bit more help. And now I feel like women are trying to be both all the time. So as you work with women, what do you think are some of the, I'll say, I guess, for lack of a better word, like dysfunction from being in this kind of energy that some of your programs help to shift? Like, what are some of the effects of having these imbalances or these dysfunctions that you have watched and witnessed shift? I know you shared a couple, but.
Well, I think that's it's a great question. One of the things is that when we look at, I always say, we were brainwashed. I was born in the 60s, so we were brainwashed in the 70s. There was a perfume commercial way before your time, but it was Angeli perfume. And it was, the lyrics were from the song, I can bring home the bacon, fry it up in a pan, and never let you forget you're a man, because I'm a woman.
Oh, geez.
Right? And so the visuals on the commercial was this woman, first thing in the morning, getting her kids breakfast, kissing them each, handing them lunch as they went out the door, kiss to the husband on the cheek. And then she's dressed in a business suit and off to work. And then she comes home and she's making dinner, and And then she has the sexy negligee on as she goes to make love with her husband, right? Essentially, that's the imagery that's brought in. So we're essentially brainwashed, right? I call it brainwashing because while men in America were out buying the Angeli perfume, women were brainwashed into thinking, oh my gosh, we got to do it all. And we had to do it all at the same time.
Right.
Women can absolutely have it all, but not at the same time. There are always choices we have to make. If I can be now and look back, my God, I've had it all. But it doesn't mean like sometimes we get brainwashed into thinking it's got to be all right now, and it doesn't. Let's prioritize. What is our priority? For me, it's always God and family first, and am I living along that priority? And now my purpose, like what do I love doing in this world? Giving and empowering women to be able to heal themselves and to be pain-free, to be in a loving relationship, physically in love with their own body, and content and all of those things. So like, and how am I doing that and maintaining my priorities? And so this has been, again, it's been a journey for me, but it's something that I found that is so key. And that's what I help women do in my programs. I help them prioritize. I help them make the biggest changes, even the smallest changes that they can make that will have the biggest impact in their life. Whether it's, simply, I follow my keto green diet. So my way of eating, but it's more than a way of eating, it's a way of lifestyle. Empowering our body to use our hormones. And what it does, it empowers our body to balance our hormones so that we are physiologically set. And again, I've come from a place where I've known depression. I've been over 240 pounds and, weight loss resistant at that weight, right? And I've been all of those things. And so to be at this, I get it. I get that it's hard. And I get, a single mom raising 4 daughters. I mean, those are challenges, and I get those. So always keeping an alignment, keeping the priority, and having a group of people that walk with you in the same walk makes all the difference in the world. But using science, nature, and really just these few lifestyle hacks make a huge difference working through this to really balance out our hormones in our body. Cole, I want to share with women, because I know that you've had endometriosis and ovarian cyst and all that stuff. And as a gynecologist, initially I was trained to treat those surgically, right? Or with powerful hormones. But as I work through the things that I teach in my program through nutrition and lifestyle and ways herbals to hormone balance, like my Mighty Maca greens, the green drinks, and just different things like that. I went from doing 2 to 3 surgeries a week to 2 to 3 a year. Okay. Wow. So it's that difference. Like when I say really, because believe me, surgery is a good business, right? So, maybe that's not the best business decision I made, but I'm kidding. So as we get older, our hormones shift on a cyclical basis. We know that our hormones shift on a monthly basis with our menstrual cycle, right? So that's given something we're used to. But typically now as we get older, and it can start in our mid-30s, depending on our health and the endocrine disruptors or toxins that are in our environment, I'm seeing these shifts a lot sooner. So what we see is, for example, a patient coming into my office and she's complaining of mood swings, irritability, bloating at the time of her period or the week before. And even the cycles may start to be getting a little irregular, but or more uncomfortable, more painful, but the PMS is really getting her down. So the standard of care would be, well, here's some Prozac, here's some Lexapro. And actually one of my daughter's friend who's in college with her was just giving a prescription for Lexapro for PMS. And I'm just like, well, let's get to the underlying reason, right? Like, what is that? And so that's the standard of care. And then that client comes back in having menstrual issues, breakthrough bleeding. So we give you the birth control pill. That should knock things out, subdue your ovaries and that'll be good. Well, then the client comes back in and still having issues or more pain, discomfort, painful intercourse, or cramping, continuing, heavy bleeding, even more so, or irregular. So we opt out for a hysterectomy, right? And since you're over age 35, let's just take out your ovaries while we're there, right? So you don't get ovarian cancer, that one in some 100,000 chance. But, let's go ahead and do that. And so that's the standard of care. But really, so when I started working in bioidentical hormones and learning about nutritional detoxification and implementing that in my practice, the scenario changed. So it went from, and I have to just tell patients, when you're coming in and you're moody and you hate your husband 2 weeks out of the month, it's your hormones, it's not your husband, right? That's like a sign, physiology affecting behavior, right? And so a good reminder there, check in with yourself, right? We've got to heal our physiology and get our bodies back in balance. So the way I changed my practice is now a patient would come in with these same complaints and do one of my inventories. I created multiple inventories, questionnaires that patients take, and I include those in my programs too, because it's so important just to look, where am I at now? Because we often we've been feeling bad for so long, we don't even realize how bad we're feeling until we see that number in front of us. Mm-hmm. And by the time, honestly, we see it in our blood work, we're really, really sick. Our blood work is to look, are you near death or not, right? And so we want to be as proactive as possible. So my clients would come in, I would definitely order blood work, but I would also, and do the inventories, but I would put them on a detoxification program, a nutritional detoxification, my 21-day nutritional detoxification, make them get alkaline and remove a lot of the acidity in their diet, et cetera, and a modified elimination diet. So no white, no wheat, no sweet, very little red meat rule. That was one of my rules, is one of my rules. And so then, I often, because this cyclical moodiness, et cetera, using bioidentical progesterone can be very beneficial for those clients. And also adding herbal support to detoxify, balance, and support the adrenal glands to help support. So hence I added in Mighty Maca, my superfood combination.
Which is awesome. I use it every single day. Yeah.
Thank you. Tastes really good, right?
It does.
Yeah. So that's a combination of over 40 superfoods that are just amazing and good for your body. So when they would come back in for their lab results, and again, this is, with no prescription other than recommending some topical progesterone or prescribing some oral progesterone, they would come back in and say, I feel 90% better. I feel better than I had in years. I didn't realize how bad I was feeling to now I'm feeling good again. I'm doing activities I didn't think. I like my family. Actually, my family likes me. And when they would tell me that, I had one woman, she was 37. Her name was Zendi. And she said, oh my gosh, my daughter looked at me and said, Mommy, you're smiling again. And she goes, I just started crying. I couldn't believe it. What a gift you've given me. And that's it. That's it. No Prozac, no birth control pills. That's it. That's how empowering, that's how much ability we have to heal our bodies. And then from there, maybe I use additional supplements or nutrients, or just continue on the path. But that's how powerful these changes are in your life, that these little things can make big differences and save you from surgery. Again, clients with uterine fibroids and endometriosis, when we do these things, that makes a difference. I often found a parallel with endometriosis and candida yeast infections, and clearing that from the system, miraculously endometriosis goes away. And I didn't make that connection. I don't know that I would have made that connection if I wasn't a gynecologic surgeon, because I would look at endometriosis in the body and I'm like, it's like mold on bread. Do you know what I mean? It's just, it's like, it's peppered throughout. I mean, what would cause that? And so that got me thinking about, well, let's just clear out the candida and see if it gets better. And lo and behold, it did. So I'm sure there are multiple factors there, but that's certainly one of them.
Well, and again, it's one that you can control, right? So it's like, start with what you could actually shift and change and see what happens. Yes. Because it is scary and it is a lot. And especially if you're hearing from doctors, I was told you have to be on birth control. It's the only thing you can do. And then laparoscopies, when needed, right, or hospitalizations or whatever. So even just the resistance from people hearing that, women hearing that, makes it, well, it can't just be candida. That's absurd. That's too easy. You can't cure endometriosis. If it's there, it's there.
And exactly right. We can cure it. we can improve it, and we can do it free. We can do it by making different choices, by knowing it. And it's so true. Again, I had clients come to me, on the third recommendation for a hysterectomy, come to me for what was my opinion, because she wanted to have another baby. Well, that baby is now 13 years old. Thank you, God, right? Because we can. She was told by 3 physicians to get a hysterectomy. I'm like, well, let's do this. Let's give it 3 months. Lo and behold, pregnant in 3 months after a decade, and she was 43. So really, again, we can. And if there's that hope, that belief in you, that fight, man, all right, you're on the right track then.
Well, it's like we'll be the first to assume that we are uniquely broken, but not worthy or the same possibility of the miracle. And it's like, give yourself the opportunity and the environment and the effort to be the miracle. But,
Yes.
People just think that maybe miracles should just happen. But I promise you, from my own experience, at least, that if you put in the effort, that is the miracle, is you showing up even when you feel like you can't.
Oh my gosh. And that's, I'm a very big prayer warrior, right? But there's this beautiful quote, and I have it actually on one of my walls, and it's, she believed she could, so she did, right? There's that whole huge component. She believed she could, she had faith, and then she did. There's the action piece. Faith with action works together. Faith with action works together, and we have to. And so always like, what can I do today that will make me better tomorrow?
So let's break down this program that you have coming out actually pretty much now. And let's break down and let women know what's entailed with your program, what it is, so that they know if this is the right thing for them. Personally, I think it's the right thing for every woman to learn your body and prioritize. But let's break it down for those that are, everything you're saying is resonating right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to. And, we have a free webinar that I do, and it's just over an hour of just packed information that's entirely free, that just kind of goes through the philosophy and what are the 3 major hormones that we need to master, and how are some ways that we can start doing it right now, right? The action steps. And then with my Magic Menopause program, it's a beautiful 7-week, 8-week long program. You'll be in it for 8 weeks, and it's from a preparation stage, and I give menus, checklists. I'm a big checklist person. So all of I have downloadable workbooks. It's all virtual. I have women from all around the world that join me in this program from all different time zones. And, we start with our checklist and our prep and menus and my diet plan. And that gets us into our keto green concept of really mastering our major hormones, my keto alkaline concept. So again, getting alkaline in your nutritional and lifestyle habits as much as possible, and working with that. And then we also work through the emotional aspects that can be creating some bondage that we need to release and let go of, and understand how certain physical symptoms, using traditional Chinese medicine concepts and Ayurvedic concepts, like how are some of these energies trapped in our body, and what do I need to be aware of? What do I maybe need to release? And then I go into, how we come from a place of overflowing versus just barely covering the surface, right? Covering the bottom. And one of the things that women can experience is resentment, anger, agitation, all of those things. But I want women to know this, especially when it comes to our close family members, is that resentment is lack of self-care. So how do we just check in with ourselves? And then I give a whole nother class on morning and evening rituals that are empowering, that just kind of really align you, because a good morning starts with a good night, and a good night starts with a good morning. So how do we use these amazing steps, processes, habits to really create that alignment in our body and create a great day for us that we want to accomplish just to enjoy our day. And then I go into the major hormones, all our sex hormones. I have a large section on vaginal health and sexual function. One of my expertise is in sexual health. So we talk about, we go into vaginal dryness, incontinence, things that plague women as we get older, and even not older, women on birth control pills, women who have been on medications can have vaginal dryness. So what are things that we do to accomplish that? One of the solutions, I've been big on creating solutions for women that are natural. So I created Julva Cream, which is a natural anti-aging formula for the vulva, like from the clitoris to the anus, because that tissue, it's important. As we get older, we'll see lines around our lips, around our eyes. Prevention is a pound of cure. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, so we say. But it's also true for our bottom parts that people don't talk about. Fissures, hemorrhoids, all of those things can affect us. And so vaginal dryness, vulvar itching and irritation, that affects the quality of our life, let me tell you. And if we're intimate in our intimate relationship. So I really go into that. And that's a class that really women love too. And then I talk also about because now by then we've conquered our major hormones, and we're working on our minor hormones, the estrogen, the testosterone, DHEA, all those things too, that we're really factoring in there, the fine tuning, because we're really making progress. And then I talk about lab work and specialty testing. That's beyond our CBC and CMP. That's the standard blood work that's done. So there's a really, and I've created handouts and really proprietary material that is just, okay, this is what that says normal levels are. This is what, Dr. Anna's optimal levels are, because you never want to be normal. Normal is 8 out of 10 people walking into Walmart is your normal comparison. Do you want to be normal? And in Southeast Georgia, it's unhealthy. Because I was school shopping at Walmart recently, and it's unhealthy. So we really need to recognize that what's normal is not optimal, and we need to be optimal.
Yes. I love what you just said with the normal. Someone will go, well, but my labs came back normal. And it's like, well, the average size shoe is a 7, but if you're a size 8, it doesn't fit, so it's average and normal. It doesn't mean that that's okay for you, and usually people that are getting blood tests are 6 people. So you're comparing normal to illness, like you said. So normal for who? Average for who? And do you feel the way you want to feel?
Well, I will give you an example of a dear friend of mine. She showed me her husband. She was very concerned about her husband. She goes, he went to the doctor and these are his labs and they said they were normal. And she'd worked with me, so she knows what do I consider normal, right? I'm writing all over these tests. And so I'm like, oh my God, there's nothing normal about these tests. There's like inflammation there, and markers that are just, again, they're in the normal range. But even his hemoglobin A1C was 6.3. I'm like, well, wait a second here. That is crazy. And lo and behold, 6 months later, he was diagnosed with prostate cancer. I'm like, I guess that's normal for a 67-year-old man, right? Well, that's not okay. That is not okay. And that is not acceptable. So we have to be very careful with those normal results. Exactly.
Well, and really, the more you start to get to know your body, it's like, forget even what tests will tell you. The second I start to notice certain things, either with my period or with my nails, right? My nails, if I watch the quality of the nails or if they're being brittle, I started really learning what are some of the key indicators of my body that I'm deficient of something. If I am having cramping that is painful more than just a pinch for a few seconds now, I know something's off, and I know now I have steps to take into action. And I'm so grateful for this program and just all the content you have on your site, because you put out, even if someone never paid for one of your programs, they could learn all of this with the content you put out. It would take time, but it's kind of time or money, save the time and invest to learn it in a sequence and have it as materials, or like just go through your site. I have combed through your site, and I am so grateful for the quality of the content, the consistency of the content. And, as a woman at 35 who was never taught about hormones or my body and was prescribed at a young age what my future held for me, I was from 15 to 25 afraid of if I'd ever be able to have kids. That's not where we should be focused. It's like, what do we need to do to get your body healthy? Because a healthy body will reproduce, right? And it was even just the focus on deficit. We are so deficit based that in stepping into your program, in being more empowered with understanding our bodies, what hormones do, what is actually a problem psychologically versus it's a physiological response, or that the emotions are a physiological response, is so empowering. I don't diagnose myself anymore like what's wrong, or even I need a therapist. I know when I need to talk to someone, but 90% of the time it is a physiological response and a lack of self-care, and it could be simple or it could have fallen off base.
Yep. No, absolutely couldn't agree with you more. It is. And it's important for us to know where we're at right now and get accountability partners, because sometimes, that's what I love about Magic Menopause. We're in this amazing heartfelt community of women, plus our alumni are coming in again and again. We've had some women in our program 3-4 times already. And it's just like, we stay because the community, and every time I learn something new, because the information is so abundant, right? There's always something to learn new. And I'm always, we have live Q&As. So I interact live with, it's usually an hour and a half call every week, and answering questions that sometimes we don't even know the question that we have to ask, but we hear the answer to that question, something we needed to know or do or to understand. It's really important not to accept where you're at now in any way, and to recognize that it's never too late. It's never too late. We've had women who've had kidney failure and, multiple sclerosis and breast cancer, and, again, a wide range of women, mid-30s to 70s. And I just love it. I love that everyone offers something to the group, which it's a great community. It's really, I look forward to leading it again this year. So I'm excited.
Well, there is a lot to say when you come together in a community like that. There's the old saying, what your mind can conceive and believe it can achieve. But if you have never seen other miracles or other women's stories to reflect yourself in, you don't believe it's possible. And if you don't believe it's possible, it isn't,
So true.
By seeing those stories, or you see yourself in them, you go, wait, if they're like me, then I can be like them. You see the hope, you see that little light, like you said, that little shred that tells you it could be different. And you have to expose yourself to that possibility first. And that's why I love that it is a group process and that there are the Q&As, because that way you can reflect, and you get to reflect on other people where you've come. Because I know for me, I didn't realize how much pain I had been in till when I would talk to people and be like, oh, wow, yeah, it used to be really bad for me. And I just forgot, because it doesn't rule my life anymore. So I just forgot about it.
Isn't that great? That's so awesome. Exactly. And I think that's just well said.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I've probably said it like 85 times at this point on this particular podcast, but I really appreciate it. And your authenticity, your genuine desire to get women pain-free. That's my motto and mantra in life, is that when women are in pain, not only does it block their own pleasure, but it's in the way of connection with their kids, with their purpose, with their job, with their spouse or partner. And that blocks everything, And so until we get out of physical pain, we can't show up fully to make the world a better place, to be the best parent for our kid. And it's so much more fun to not be in pain, for sure.
Oh my goodness. Yes, for sure.
So thank you so much. And for anyone listening, anyone watching, I will put a link to the video so that you can actually see this whole thing, because it's pretty awesome. Just to see you shining in your light is beautiful. And also the link will be in the show notes to sign up for the program. You're going to see me there. So I'm just saying, become a master of you. That's mastery. Forget about the degrees and all of that stuff. Become a master of you above all things, because this is your experiential vehicle. The body is how you experience the rest of the world, and your experience of the rest of the world will transform tenfold when your body feels good. So again, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate your time.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.